Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Myers, Executive Editor for the Sun-Gazette. I'm here joined with my publisher, Reggie Ellis. And today we're going to be having a conversation with City Manager for Tulare, Marc Mondell. So that way we can talk about the partnership between the City of Tulare and Spade Entertainment. Joining us as well is Todd Speelman, CEO of Spade Entertainment. So I'll start off with Marc. Go ahead and give me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for this conversation. My name is Marc Mondell. I'm the City of Tulare City Manager. I've been here 3.5 years. I have about 25 years experience in city management work. I was the former Assistant City Manager in Rockland, and before that, Ocala, Florida. I have a couple master's degrees, and I have a couple certifications for my credentials.
Very nice. Todd, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Great. I'm Todd Speelman, lead producer and co-owner of Spade Entertainment, along with my wife, Claudia Speelman. And I have about 15 years in the event business and concert business. My background's in radio, about 25 years in radio, where I came with a knack of doing events, and we started up in Sacramento, and we do about 30 to 50 shows a year and other type events. And we've been in Tulare since the new venue opened.
Well, part of the reason why we're having this conversation is because of the unique type of situation that we're in with Tulare and Spade Entertainment. Not a lot of cities do this type of partnership with a park such as Zumwalt Park or an amphitheater as nice as what you guys have. So a lot of folks are wondering, how are the city's finances? How do you afford something like this, given the fact that this isn't something particularly usual among cities?
Great question. So I'll talk first about the city's finances, and then I'll work into how we afford this or how we do this. So the city is we're about a 72,000 population. Our budget's about $225 million. We've got about 500 full-time equivalent employees. Our general fund budget, which is general funds made up of property taxes, sales tax, and UUT revenue, is about $60 million a year. I would say that the city's in strong financial position. We're able to pay all of our bills. We have different funds, and all of those funds, or most of those funds, have different reserve policies associated with them. So we meet or exceed all of our reserve fund policies. And in addition to that, so for example, our general fund, we've got about $10 million in reserve funds. And in addition to that, we have an additional $10 million surplus funds on top of that. So think of that as our savings account. That's all great news. I think one of the challenges, though, that the city faces is that we have a lot of deferred maintenance that we're not able to afford in terms of keeping up with it. So for example, our roads, when you drive around the city, we have a number of roads that you look at that you could tell need to be repaired. And we have three primary sources of funding for those. We have SB1 revenue from the state, gas tax revenue from the state, and Measure R revenue from local sales tax. Those dollars typically go into road maintenance. Some of those dollars can go into new roads, road improvements. Those dollars alone are not enough to cover all of those costs. For example, just doing one subdivision, let's figure 100 to 200 home subdivision, to redo that neighborhood, those roads, it costs about $6 to $8 million right now. So if you extrapolate that across the city on all the subdivisions and all the arterials and collector roads we have, several hundred millions of dollars of improvements that we need to get done. And so one of those challenges are, for example, the 10 million surplus revenue, we could use that money to fix roads, and we'd do 1 or 2 subdivisions and we'd be done. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we've been focusing on is this council is very much committed to focusing on economic development and downtown redevelopment. And we're trying to use those dollars as an investment. How do we use those dollars to attract outside investment into our community? In every shape and form, whether that's people visiting our community who are going to stay in our community and stay in hotels and pay TOT tax revenue, and eat at restaurants and pay sales tax revenue, or get gas at our gas stations, pay gas tax revenue, or businesses that want to come and build new buildings and create new jobs for our residents and generate new property tax revenue, right? So many of the things we are doing are about attracting new investment into our community. And those things take time. And so we have to be very patient. Now, on the other side of that equation, we also do things to save money, right? And so, for example, in the last 3.5 years, we have been very fortunate. We did 3 projects. One was an energy efficiency project. One was an electric utility meter totalization project. And those, and I'm trying to remember the other project off the top of my head here. Give me 1 second, I apologize. In street sweeping, we privatize our street sweeping operation. Those 3 projects combined are saving us $1 million a year, okay? And then the third piece of that equation is we try to attract other grant dollars and earmarks. So we've been really fortunate. In the last 3.5 years, we've received $18 million in federal ARPA funds. That's one-time money that we could use for a lot of broad things, and we did. And then we also have achieved or attracted $12 million in federal earmark funds. Those funds could only be used for certain projects. Like the building we're sitting in, for example, received $2.5 million of earmarks. In fact, this building was about an $8 million project. Half of this building was funded with other people's money, not local tax money. And the project we're going to talk about today, Zumwalt Park, is similar. There's a lot of, and I'll get into that later, but there's a lot of different funding aspects of that project, and it can only be used for certain things and had to be used in a certain time frame. So I think that gives you a good outline of sort of where we're at financially. I think the last piece I would share with that is all of the funds we have different restrictions on them. So for example, if you look at it on a fund account, we might have a lot of money sitting in one account that clearly takes care of all of our needs in that account. Like, this is not a great example, I'll say gas tax. We can only use the gas tax revenue related to road projects, right? We cannot use the gas tax revenue to hire more police officers or build a park, right? And vice versa, we might have a park fund. We can only use that park fund to build parks. We can't use it to hire police officers, right? So it's a very complex puzzle of what are the funding sources and what can they be used for.
Right, I understand. I think what maybe some folks are hung up on is that the cities don't quite invest themselves into entertainment type projects, right?
Yep.
And they typically don't invest in entertainment type businesses like what Todd has.
Yep.
So when folks hear that, and then lately they hear that $400,000 was allocated for Spade Entertainment to help put on the shows at the amphitheater and at the park, I think either there's a misunderstanding or it's a novel type concept to them. So tell me more about the philosophy that you see in the economic development side and why you think that the entertainment side is so important moving forward and for the park.
Yeah, great question. And that was the second part of your question. So so I would say that it's not uncommon for cities to invest dollars in projects that bring people into their communities. I'll give you a couple examples just right up the street in Visalia. For example, the city of Visalia invests money in their convention center. They spend about, and I'm going to use rough numbers here, but about $3.1 million a year in terms of putting money into the convention center to attract people to downtown Visalia. That's one of the reasons why downtown Visalia is successful, right? They also put about $700,000 a year into the minor league baseball stadium, right? So you'll see cities do things like put money into zoos or aquariums or airports or convention centers or minor league baseball stadiums or outdoor amphitheater projects. Many cities will put money into an outdoor amphitheater project as just a gathering space means for the local citizens to come together. And we can certainly use this amphitheater for that sole purpose, right? We could attract just local talent. And it wouldn't cost us much money to do that. We could have just cover bands or regional bands show up and play. And that would be a benefit to our citizens, but that won't attract anyone, right? We're not going to get people from San Francisco and Los Angeles or outside of the state of California to come to Tulare to see a cover band, right? So again, part of the reason why we do that, when we spent the money on Zumwalt Park, first and foremost, we were building a recreational amenity for our citizens, right? So if you look at that park, the majority of the park is grass. We have a brand new splash pad, a brand new playground. We have new bathrooms, and we preserve the Sousa Pavilion from a historic preservation perspective. All that's used by our citizens every day. It's open 7 days a week from dusk to dawn to dusk. But the other thing we did is we built the amphitheater and we put the concert series in it. And what that does is it not only entertainment for our citizens, but it attracts people to our community, right? And as I mentioned before, when we attract people to our community, and Todd will talk about this a little bit, how many people we've actually had. In fact, the majority of the people that were coming to our concerts are from outside this community, and including, I think, 14 states, right? When we attract those people to our community, many of them, especially those from out of state, are staying here. They're staying in hotels, they're visiting their family, they're visiting all the outdoor attractions. They're paying the gas tax and the sales tax and the TOT tax. Those are revenues that are coming into the city to help offset some of these costs. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention, since you brought up the recent article you guys did in the $400,000, it's a very important point. I don't want to lose track of this. That $400,000 is in and of itself is not our local tax dollars. The city was very fortunate to do a naming rights agreement with Adventist Health. We signed a 5-year, $500,000 naming rights agreement. That means every year they contribute $100,000 to the city. The intention of those dollars is to go back into Zumwalt Park to continue to sustain its use. And why did they do it? Those are their marketing dollars. They're trying to market to our local citizenry and the people from the Central Valley to come to this venue to use their services, right? It's the same thing we're doing. We're marketing our venue and our community to people outside so they come here and spend their money here, right? So what that agenda item was asking council, hey, they've already given us $100,000. They're gonna give us $400 over the next 4 years. What do we wanna do with that money? How should we spend that money? My recommendation to council was we're seeing a gap this year because our ticket sales are lower than we want them to be. Mm-hmm. I think we should use that $400,000 to subsidize those costs. And it's not money to Spade Entertainment. It's money to the contractors. Like, for example, our production company, they're a Tulare-based company. They have to spend, all their money for their staff and their equipment to put on these shows. Somebody's got to cover that cost. Normally that would come out of ticket sales. Mm-hmm. Until we get this venue fully established, which will take us about 3 years, I said to council, let's use Adventist Health's dollars to cover that cost. Now, in the interim, we're using general fund because those monies come in $25,000 every quarter. We use general fund now to pay the bills, and as those dollars come in, they replace the general fund. They go right back into our savings account. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question?
That does. I think that makes more sense. Okay. I think that must mean that you have a lot of confidence in what Todd can do in bringing the right shows, the right folks together, which leads me to my next question for you, is how exactly do you wrangle these folks into Tulare? Not a well-known venue for concerts. So How are you marketing them?
That's a great question. Yeah. So, when Marc first started this project, we were really focused on, when I was talking to Marc, it's like, hey, we have to build a great venue in order to attract, top artists here. Otherwise, they'll go to Fresno and Bakersfield. It's a little tougher to get to Tulare. So to the city of Tulare's credit and Marc's credit, they built a beautiful venue. They listened to us, they listened to production, and continue to do that. And then it was a matter of us going out and marketing the venue. And so one of the biggest things we did a year and a half ago was we go to music conferences, and that's where we showed off the venue to all the management companies throughout the world, over in Nashville and down in Los Angeles. And then if you remember right, at the tail end of last year, we had 3 concerts that we already had booked, and even though construction wasn't done, we were able to perform those concerts and had a great time and had decent crowds. The public kept saying that we weren't going to be able to pull it off, but it was no problem. And then going into this year, so our goal is to have all different genres of music. Obviously, we want to see what works down here. We know country works down here, but what else works? Does jazz work? Does classic rock work? And we're really finding out a lot of our answers, this year. As Marc said, in our marketing, and that's been a big misconception. Some of the comments we've seen are, hey, I haven't heard of this, and it's frustrating for us. And like my wife, she handles all the artists, and she goes shopping locally, and she's always talking to people at stores. And it's frustrating, but like media is so interesting nowadays. You have to do so much. It's not the old days of radio where you could throw something, or media where you could throw something on the radio and like sell out a concert, like that. So we do all sorts. In fact, I was making a list last night, We're on KSCE TV. We do things with you guys. You guys are sponsoring one of our big shows, this weekend. We have a partnership with Momentum Broadcasting. We do a lot of digital. We do geoframing, geofencing, display ads, and it's just a mix of stuff, and it's format specific. So like we have a big Latin show at the end of August. We're on Univision TV. We're on 3 different Spanish radio stations. We do heavy social media. And one of the things that we're doing this year is we're attaching promo codes to everything. And so we can track what's working and what's not working. And then that allows me to go back to Marc and say, listen, I'm looking at everything for the year. And in this market, I think this format of advertising doesn't work, or this does. And so I think we need to invest those dollars, in that way. And we have a marketing team staff, and we have a social media staff that does all this, because we do shows in other markets as well.
So sorry, where are you gonna go?
Todd, you brought up marketing. Obviously, that's a cost on you. Booking the acts is a cost on you. Can you talk a little bit about the structure of who's responsible for what? Because most of it actually falls on Spade Entertainment.
Yeah.
If you read through the contract.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have discussions with Marc, and I'll tell him hey, I know these bands are touring this year. These are I think good bands to go after, and let's see what what happens in the market with these bands. I think the important thing is I saw some comments yesterday. It's let's get Lady Gaga or let's get Kid Rock, and it's we can't afford that. I mean, these are $1 million acts.
Uh-huh.
We have to. This venue holds 5,500
I was
people.
going to say the venue's not big enough.
Right. Yeah. and then we always battle on the other side too, because people say, "Oh, your tickets are too expensive." Well, you asked for bigger talent, you got to pay more for that. And that's another discussion I want to have. But so we go after talent that we think at the end of the day, after we count the money with the bar and with sponsor money and everything, that maybe we can get out breaking even, or maybe we can make a few bucks, and let's see how that format goes. So that's really our focus. And I think you would be surprised at some of the formats that do work. I've had people say, I can't believe you hired that band. They were our biggest pre-sale we've ever done in this market. We sold more tickets than the country show with this hard rock show. So it's just interesting to see the different. And then the other thing is, if you look at Tulare, it's a completely different demographic than Visalia or Fresno. Mm-hmm. And we market a 150-mile radius. And like Marc said, this year, I pulled the stats, I don't have them right in front of me, but I think we're at 18 states and 220 cities. I mean, we're pulling from all over the place. And that just shows how fast the reach has gone already about this venue.
One of the things I love about this venue that I'm learning quickly is the intimacy of it. Like at the Clint Black show is a perfect example. Here's a young boy, his first concert, he's old school country, his favorite performer is Clint Black. He's like, can I get an autograph, right? His mom hands me a boot and says, could Clint Black sign it? I hand it to Todd, and he comes back a few minutes later with a signature. It's like, you're not getting that if you go to the Golden One Center.
Right.
Right? Now, I'm not saying everybody shows up with their boots. I'm just saying the level of intimacy and how close you can get, and the fact that you can, depending on the ticket, you can get backstage and the meet and greets, and it's a whole different level of experience that we're trying to create here.
Well, even you bring up a great point. Is everything done? I know people often, the public doesn't often understand. Like you build something and oftentimes you open it, but it's not quite done yet. Yeah. Are we there yet? And how much more do we have if we're not?
So we're very close. I mean, we're done in the sense that it's passed the certificate of occupancy inspection, so it's open to the public, right? There's cosmetic things. I'll just give you a few of them. For example, originally we planned to have an ice machine backstage. We have a big cooler backstage, but we were going to have an ice machine, and somehow that got left off the plans. So we're in the process of getting the ice machine now. It should be here in another couple of weeks or whatever. But that doesn't affect the shows. It doesn't affect the performances for the audience. It affects him, because now until we have the ice machine, he has an extra cost. He has to pay $1,500 every show for ice delivery, right? So that'll help reduce that cost. There's other little things that we're working on, like there's an old clock tower that was in the park that we took out. Where we were going to put it originally, after we got the park open, looked at it, doesn't fit there. So I don't know if you've noticed out there's this big circular like bench area in the middle of the park. That was going to, originally there was a big oak tree that was going to go around. We had to take the oak tree down. It started dying during construction.
It's sacrilege if I sell you.
Believe me, I didn't want it. That was a beautiful tree. It was going to be shade. It was perfect. We built the whole design around it, and then we had to take it down. So what's going to go there in its place is we're going to put that clock tower there, and we're going to put a big array of tiered flowers all around it. So every time you walk in the park, there'll be new flowers. And then at Christmas time, we take those flowers out and we put up a 30-foot commercial Christmas tree. That's our new tree lighting ceremony will be in Zumwalt Park. So
you're not going to shut down streets for it anymore? That's nice.
Well, no. We'll still have streets shut down for like the Christmas parade stuff. But
yeah.
So there's little details like that we're still working on. And then as we have shows, if we see there's a problem, something here, like we have to add some outlets in a couple places. One of the problems we didn't think about, we thought about a lot of things when we designed it. We didn't think about this. All the pedestrian lighting in the park, it goes on and off, which is great. But when you have the concert going, it has to be off.
Yeah, right.
Which means back at the playground and splash pad, it's not on. So we're rewiring that so that we can shut off the lights by the front of the stage and keep the lights on by the splash pad and playground. So little things like that we're working on.
Okay.
The reason why we entered in the agreement the way we did is because we wanted to push more of the risk as possible to the operator, right? You cover the cost, you cover everything, you're operating this thing, you pay the bills. We're not there yet. We've already gone through that. But our goal within the next 3 years is to try to get there as much as we possibly can. The reason why he did, most of Todd's, in fact, I think this is the only deal that Todd has. I'll let him answer that if I'm wrong, but most, if not all of Todd's contracts are not at risk. He gets paid a flat fee. You pay him, and this is what he makes to do the show. So he's never at risk. He knows going into the show what his costs are going to be and how much money he's going to make, and he makes money on the show. This is different. This contract, he did it this way because for a couple of reasons. One is this is what we negotiated, and I wanted to put more of the risk on him. But two, he also has a lot of faith in this venue, and he sees potentially more upside long term, right? I'm grateful that Todd is taking those sponsorship dollars and not keeping them and putting it back into the venue because he believes in the venue. And there's a lot of shows that they'll put on, they'll do charity shows where they're not making a dime. We have one coming up at Christmas time that he's getting ready to put on. But anyways, Todd currently, his goal is to generate at a minimum $15,000 to $20,000 gross revenue per show for his company. Out of that, he takes out all his expenses, okay? He hasn't come near that for any one of these shows this year. He takes a $5,000 operator fee out of every show. Out of that, he has to pay his expenses. So he's here for half a week for every show, his hotels and food and travel and gas and any of his overhead. He also gets 75% of the net proceeds from beverage sales, okay? There are usually net proceeds, but it varies dramatically, and it will continue to vary until we stabilize this venue and we can kind of know what talent, what they bring, and where that's at. So he hasn't come close to $15,000 for any one of the show, and I will tell you that if you look at all of the time he has spent working on this thing, because there's many hours way beyond each of these shows, my guess is him and Claudia are probably making minimum wage. Now, are there a lot of operators that would do that? No, there's not. And so I'm grateful to Todd and Claudia for that. The city organization is, and our hope is that won't have to continue, right? But we'll see. I mean, at some point, if this doesn't turn around and get to the place, I shouldn't say turn around, because I think we're actually doing better from every perspective, in my opinion, and I'm going to talk about a couple more of those in a second here. The only two that I think, the ticket sales is the biggest one. That's a shocker. We're lower on ticket sales than I thought we would be. And sponsorship revenue is pretty good, but I think we can still do better. And I think we will over time as people come out and see it, they'll want to be involved in it, right? So I think I wanted to mention that piece. A couple of other pieces. I have heard, before we ever started this venue, I heard people say there's no parking. It's really important that we talk about it. Parking is absolutely factually not an issue. Now, I'm not saying that every person will be satisfied. There may be somebody who wants to, I will tell you, for every show, well, let me say it to you this way. There are 4, we've identified, we have a study I can give you the study. There are 4,000 parking spaces north and west of the venue, and we haven't calculated the ones south and east, but I'm going to tell you, I think there's about at least 4,000 south and east, probably a little bit more than that. These are either within city-owned public parking lots, on-street labeled parking spaces, or the private parking lots that we rent for the shows. Okay, so we have 4,000 that are free. If you get to the show early, you can park literally on the street right outside the venue and walk to. I mean, you can't get any closer. I can't let you park in the venue, so that's the closest you can get. If you don't want to park or get there early, you can show up 5 minutes before the show using one of the share ride services like Lyft or Uber and park right outside this door, which is literally right across, not park, but get dropped right off of here. And you can walk, 50 feet to the front door. So parking is absolutely not a problem. Now, I hear people say parking is, so because we hear people say that, we're still working to add more parking. We're negotiating right now on another piece of property that's privately owned that we would put a gravel parking lot in, about 60 spaces. I don't think we have to do that, but we're doing it because we want to create an environment where we can check that off their list, and I don't have to hear people say there's no parking, right? Come to the event, you'll see there's plenty of parking.
I have a solution for those people, by the way.
What?
Just park halfway or park in front of Tap Yard, and then when you leave the venue afterwards,
Yes.
go to Tap Yard.
Yes.
Support a local business.
That's what smart people are
And
doing.
you're parked right there waiting.
Yes, that's brilliant.
Or the wine bar that's
Yes.
The wine bar,
or
you're
any
right. I totally
restaurant.
forgot about the wine bar.
Yes, like if you talk to those business owners, they will tell you that this venue has been doing exactly what we wanted it to do.
Yeah.
This is a key downtown redevelopment effort. That's one thing I didn't say in the beginning. I've done a lot of downtown redevelopment work. In fact, if I would say in my expertise, if there's two areas, it's economic development and downtown redevelopment. I've done it before. In fact, nothing that I've brought to this city, I haven't done at least once. This is the third venue I've done, okay? So I know from experience what I'm talking about. Not only am I trained in it, but I know from experience. So the keys to downtown redevelopment is very simple. It's not rocket science. There's 5 things. You have to have people living downtown, working downtown, eating downtown, shopping downtown, and entertaining and recreating downtown. We're working on all 5 of those. This Zumwalt Park is only one move in multiple moves we're making to redevelop downtown. This is the primary entertainment recreation venue, right? But we've invested in 4 businesses downtown. That's why the Tap Yard's there. That's why the wine bar's there, right? Because we took a portion of our ARPA dollars. Remember I told you we got 18 million in free money and 12 million, 30 million in free money. So we put that money into some of these types of things. So those projects, now they had to spend most of their money, but we put a small piece of money into that, right? But those projects are successful in part because we put money into them and because people are coming to the venue. They're not just coming to the venue for the concert, they're coming before for dinner or after for, beverages and things. And so that I think is a really important piece. I want to mention just a couple other pieces if you have some time.
Yeah. Real quick, there's
yes.
another piece that we're sitting in.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a perfect example. Yes, half of this building was paid for with other people's money, right? And this is going to create small businesses. Those small businesses are going to be shopping downtown and eating lunch downtown. And the goal is to take these small businesses and grow them into bigger businesses, right?
Right.
And we
This
have
is the Tulare Business
Innovation Zone. Yep, T-Biz.
Yeah,
Yep.
essentially an incubator.
It's a business incubator. It opened yesterday.
Right.
Yep.
And I just want to comment before Mark goes to the next subject is, Mark's vision was very well explained to myself and my wife. And so with that vision in mind, it's all about the small businesses. It's all about the redevelopment. I'm constantly talking to the businesses. How busy were you? Tap Yard, we do cross promotions with each other. How can I help you? And they're in turn, how can we help you? And I've never seen a community, a business community that stepped up like this community. It was one of my biggest fears is, where are we going to get sponsor dollars? Is this community going to step up? And they have stepped up in a huge way. And like Mark said, the potential is, even bigger. But it's exciting to talk to Adrian and at Tap Yard, and he's like, we don't even have enough employees to handle people before and after the shows, and same with the wine bar and other locations. So that's important to us.
You also have a bunch of nonprofit, right? You have nonprofits involved, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so, the bar, for instance, is ran by TDES, which is the Portuguese Hall. So we met with them, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And, we said, hey, come on this journey with us, let's do it. And we love working with them. They do all the bars out at the Ag Center. And they just come in and they own it, so they get 20% of the proceeds, and then I pay all their expenses and everything. And so that's helping them. And then anything else we can do, we did a couple of things at the Clint Black show. There was a local Tularian, she has cancer, and she actually has her surgery next week. And within 3 days, we found out about it, and we pulled the trigger. And her dream was to be on stage. Hey, you're on stage. You're on stage with Momentum Broadcasting. This is your dream. We're here to raise money for you. We had another business that gave us a bunch of koozies, and we did donations on those. And we were able to raise thousands of dollars that night for her medical bills. And then that same night, I got a call from George Herrera, local resident. He goes, hey, I have a photo booth. It's not being used. Can I bring it for donations for the Little League team? I'm like, yeah, bring it on over. End of the night, I checked in, and he's like, we made a killing. This is great, and we love stuff like that and the stories like that. So anytime we can involve a nonprofit to help them make some money. I mean, right now I'm a nonprofit, but so I'd like to make a little too. But anything we can do to help the community and get them to the venue is key for us.
Does being a nonprofit have any bearing on kind of how this partnership works between you and the city?
He's a nonprofit only by virtue they're not making any money.
Yeah.
He's a for-profit company.
Yeah. So
He's just operating like
Yes.
He was being prickly.
And the reason why we have to have a nonprofit for the bar is because that's the legality of it with the ABC, right? But you're always concerned about what type of nonprofit you're going to have run your bar. And, it's like, you can't just have the local softball team and, you have to have
Probably not a good
professional
idea, yeah.
bartenders at a size venue like this.
Right.
If it's a small show and you have a few hundred people, you can have the local, team or whatever help out. But these guys know what they're doing and we can get through it.
Gotcha.
A couple other things I'd like to mention. One is, I've heard and seen a lot of misinformation, and I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just misunderstanding. People don't have all the facts about some of the expenses of things. So I saw one the other day that said something about the city spent $1 million on porta potties, and that's not accurate. I'll tell you exactly what we did.
That'd be a lot of porta potties.
Yeah. That'd be a lot of porta potties.
They'd have to be super luxury.
Yeah.
Super.
That's just the bathroom now.
Like Mariah Carey luxury.
Yeah, I don't even think we spent $1 million on the bathroom we built. But anyways, we made a decision. So the venue as it's designed is designed to support about 1,000 people with the bathrooms we have, right? Mm-hmm. We've got the 6 bathrooms in the building, and then there's VIP bathrooms that people can use. But as soon as we get over that number, we need more bathrooms. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't want to build a venue that has all these bathrooms out there all the time, right? So we bring in bathrooms. Now we could rent porta potties, and we did that for the construction time. It's not expensive to rent the plastic porta potties that everybody hates, right? Nobody wants to use those. It is very expensive to rent the modular bathrooms that come on the trailer that are nicest. They're air conditioned. Okay, that's very expensive. I don't remember the exact number, but it's probably like $7,000 a show or something like that. It's a lot of money. So now imagine 10 shows. You're $70,000 for the year just to rent them, right? So we made the decision to buy some. We spent I think it was $125,000. I'll get you the exact number if you need it. It was about $125,000. We bought 2 modular bathrooms. We bought it for 2 reasons. Well, 3 reasons. One, because we save money long term by owning them instead of renting them.
Yeah.
2, we needed them for the venue, and they're nicer than those porta potties, right? And 3, this is the other big reason. Since I've been here, I can't tell you how many times people have complained to me that when we have events downtown, there's nowhere for people to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
They have to go into the businesses, and the businesses don't always like it because people are coming in and they're making a mess and they're not buying anything. Okay, those bathrooms we're going to use for all downtown events. We just wheel them out, and now we have bathrooms that people can use. When people put on special events, Depends on the event. If it's a co-sponsored event with the city, we won't charge for use of the bathrooms. If it's not a city-sponsored event, you'll have to have bathrooms, and you'll have to, now you don't have to rent ours, you can rent someone else's, but we will offer them a discounted price to rent our bathrooms, so we'll be recouping money over time on those bathrooms.
I think that a lot of folks, I think that anybody who's a business owner or works in operations on a broad scale understands exactly what you're saying. I think I think they're two. There's not even a Venn diagram of the people who leave comments on social media and the people who understand these things on a very basic level. Because when you told me 10 shows, $7,000 per show, $70,000 in a year, you're looking at Todd's endeavor for at least the next 4 years, dialing it in.
Yeah.
You are going to spend $125,000 on 2 of these.
Yes.
So it's not even 2 years of shows.
Yes.
Like you can waste so much money over 2 years, and chances are to rent them is going to be more expensive year over year.
Yes.
So like not only are you getting a greater than 2-year deal, but you're also getting the control of where you want to deploy them and when. And so I think that any business owner or anybody in operations looks at that and says, absolutely makes sense. That's a money decision as long as you have the capital to put it forward. The problem is not many people are in business and not many people work in finance in this way for the city or any of these things.
Yes.
And so therefore they look, for a lot of folks, $125,000 is a lot of money.
Absolutely.
That's more
it is.
than their yearly salary.
Absolutely.
And it's like, but they also spend that time that they do have putting out their thoughts half-cocked on social media, and that catches more people's attention than it does whenever you actually understand the numbers.